Hello everyone, this is Allison. I know you can't see my face right now, but that's because I am using that document camera. This video is the one that I promised in the initial video for Module 1, which is the walkthrough of the ICD-10-CM manual and how to tab it. This video is not going to go into the conventions of the manual. It's really just going to be a basic overview of it and how to tab it so you're able to quickly use it once you get started with coding, actually. So a few things before we get started. I wanted to show you what I'm using. I'm going to be using these tabs. You do not have to use this kind of tab. You can use any tab that you want as long as it is not like a Post-it and is a legitimate tab. You can't staple anything. You cannot tape anything into this manual or any of your other manuals. For the national exam, it has to be a self-adhesive tab. I like this kind because they're a little bit thicker, but as I said in the other video, you can get pre-printed tabs. You can get all different kinds of tabs, just anything that'll help you be able to quickly go through and identify different sections in the book is fine. It just needs to be a legitimate tab, not a Post-it note, not a piece of paper, nothing glued, stapled, anything like that in there, or taped, of course. So I have this kind. I just picked them up at Staples. This is what the box looks like. I also have a link to a different kind from Amazon. You're free to get those if you want, or whatever works for you. If you find something cheaper, go for it. Also not listed, but useful. Good pen. I like the gel kind, and because you will obviously have to write on these tabs. And then if you'd like, I always find highlighters to be really helpful. So they might help you, they might not, but I like to use them, especially when you're going through your textbook, just to identify things that you think will be helpful, things you want to make note about in your manual. So let's get started. Like I said, ICD-10-CM, current year. This is what you'll need for the exam that you will hopefully all be taking at the end of this year. Okay, here's the author. Not a super important page, but something that might help you is to use this as a place to write notes. I liked to use it to actually tell myself where I've written different notes. So I'll show you what we're going to hopefully be writing about today. And then I would come in here and say, hey, I wrote about these kinds of conventions on this page. I wrote about acronyms on this page, just to kind of give myself a reference. So as the more you get into this, the more that kind of stuff will make sense. Here is table of contents. We don't really use this. I don't think you'll need to, but if you want to, you can always put a tab there. These are the conventions, and we will get into those at a later date. Here is the symbols. I would put a tab on the symbols page, just because occasionally you might forget what something means. And so it's always good to be able to come back and quickly reference that. So I put a tab there. And you can tab it however you want. If you want to put tabs up at the top, that's fine. If you want to put tabs along the side, that's fine. I do both. It just kind of depends. But it's whatever is most convenient for you. These are the updates. So these are the things that have changed from the previous version. Good to look through, but not something that you need to necessarily put a tab on. Let's do these all the way, and there's quite a bit. As you can tell, there's quite a few changes each year. So that's why it's important to get a new version every year. And whenever you're an official coder, then your work should be paying for you to get these. If you are not working in coding, you will want to purchase new manuals every year. This section is for the guidelines. I would definitely put a tab here. I'll put mine up at the top. I like to put, so technically the section starts here. I like to put my tabs on the first page of actual content. Like I said, it's up to you. This is one that I like to put up at the top. But actually, I'm gonna put it here so I can see it from the top, the front. So it's whatever works for you. Guidelines are definitely the most important part of coding, and we'll be going through all of these, but just something quick to understand. All the guidelines are listed in the front, and then they are listed again throughout the manual at the beginning of the section that applies to those guidelines. So let's skip through. And onto the green section. Notice here again is a good blank page. It's page 52. So that might be a good place for you to make some notes if you need to. There's not a ton of blank space in this book. So wherever you can find it, I would use it. Anything that you write in the book is perfectly acceptable to have available to you for the national exam. But you can't tape anything in here. You can't bring notes along or anything like that, but you can definitely make your own notes on the actual paper. These are the illustrations. I would definitely make a tab for that. And that's another one I'm going to do at the top. It's up to you, whoever works best for you. This book has really good illustrations. I have a couple different publishers, and this one definitely has the most realistic and detailed illustrations. These are really helpful if a question comes up that references a specific body part and you are not 100% sure what's going on there or where that is. This is really helpful to give you just some kind of insight about it. Hopefully you've all taken anatomy and also medical terminology. So a lot of these words should be familiar to you, but we all forget things. So these are a great reference to have. And I was going to point out in here, yeah, okay. So on page 67, there's another really good blank page, also the eye illustration, which surprisingly you'll use quite a bit because coding for the eye is a lot different than coding for other parts of the body. So this was really helpful to me on my national exam because there was questions like, which part comes first in the eye? Is it the cornea? Is it the iris? Is it the lens? You know, things like that. And so to just have that illustration here, I could just flip through it and make sure I was not guessing. I knew the right answer, but also obviously lots of great blank space for you to make notes. And the next page also has some great blank space as well. And here too, that's page 70. So I would tab that and then skip through, and we are going to the alphabetic index. Again, I would skip to the first page. And then I would just write on your tab, I would just write it as alpha or alpha index, whatever you want. But you will use this every single time you code. So you'll get very familiar. So the way that coding works is coding with the ICD-10 anyway, once you know which condition you are going to code, you come and you find it here in the alpha index, and then that directs you to a code, a specific code. So like here, let's find one. Okay. So loss of liver function. That directs you to R94.5. And so then you will find that here in the rest of the manual. We'll flip to the R section and find it, and then see if there's any additional codes, a more specific code, or if there's any additional guidelines that will help you code to the most specific possible code. So you always start here, and then you flip and find it in the back. So definitely tab alphabet index. You don't really need to tab each individual letter, but if you want to, you can. Just so if you want to do A's, B's all the way through, you for sure can. I didn't, but it's up to you. If you find that easier, go for it. The next thing, you will flip to the table of neoplasms, and this is all the way on 477. You will definitely use this. We'll get into more of what it is later. But you will definitely use it. So for sure put a tab there on 477 or 479, whatever works for you. Then you're going to flip to this purple section, which is the table of drugs and chemicals. Most people just call it table of drugs. And that is on 507. And then we're going to flip up to the external cause index. And that's on 601. Again, I like to put my tabs here on the first page. And tab it wherever is most convenient for you. External cause is a code that identifies what exactly happened that caused the injury or the diagnosis that you're coding. That's an additional code that you'll add on. It's not an add-on code for those of you who know what I'm talking about, but it is a code that you will add to the end of a string of codes that you're using. So if there's an accident, all kinds of different specific accidents that might have happened, and this just allows you to code even more specifically and helps for tracking of different kinds of accidents, injuries, other causes for statistical purposes and all kinds of different things. And we'll go over it more in depth, but this is really fun to look through sometimes. Like there's a glider accident, there's of course motor vehicle, special vehicle, a pedal cycle accident. There's lightning strikes, all kinds of roller skating accident I just saw. So all kinds of different things, basketball, baseball, bowling accidents, Foursquare is on here. So really all kinds of crazy things that people are tracking and coding. And I don't know how often there's a Foursquare accident, but it's cool that it's in there, right? So definitely come look through this sometime if you want. And we will skip up now to the tabular. So the tabular is where all the specific diseases are listed in here. So you are going to go through and like I said, these are the guidelines. So what we saw back in the front, way back in the front in the red section, they're all listed at the beginning of the section that it applies to. So like this is the guidelines about infectious and parasitic diseases, because that's what's listed in this section. So this is really helpful, but you can always flip to the front if you are needing to. So, and we'll get into what situations might lead you to use one list of guidelines over the others later. But so in the list, I want to do a tab for each letter. So this is A. Like I said, I like to do it on the first page of content, and that's 651. So I'd start there. And I would flip up to B. So the reason why we are going to tab based on letter rather than chapter is because occasionally one chapter will have different letters in here. It will have more than one letter, and those letters will carry on over into the next chapter, which is has a different context, different kinds of diseases. So we always go by letter because that's what you'll see in the alpha index. And so you want to flip to that letter, not necessarily a specific chapter. So we are in B, which starts on 664. And then let's get it. C starts on 679. And C is a very big chapter. And then let's find D. D starts on 710. And if you are coding or if you are tabbing along the side, you'll want to make sure that it kind of flows easily down the side. So make sure you're moving it down a little bit each time. That might seem like common sense, but I did it wrong the very first time I did it. So I want you guys to avoid making my mistakes. So D is one of those letters that carries over from different chapters. It starts in chapter 2, it goes into chapter 3. So we want to flip up to E. Okay, E starts on 738. And F starts on 760. G is 793. H technically starts on 815, but there's not content until 816. So do with that what you will. H is another one that goes through multiple chapters. Here, I starts on 874. J starts on 925. K starts on 941. And you'll see some people tab J, K, L together. I don't, but you can tab those together if you prefer to. That's fine. I just like to have it. I like to have everything individually marked, but again, your preference. And L starts on 968. First page of content is 969. Down there at the bottom. M starts on 994. N doesn't start until 1096. And I'm not doing these in any specific color order, and that might drive you crazy, but whichever order you want to. So I apologize if it bothers you that I'm not going red, yellow, blue each time. So O codes are very important. These are labor delivery, pregnancy codes. So you will definitely use these quite a bit. Those start on 1120. Lots of very specific guidelines for pregnancy, as you can imagine. P codes start on 1163. Q codes start on 1176. Q is another one I see a lot, is Q and R tabbed together. You can do that if you like. R codes start on 1198. S codes will start on 1224. S is another really big one, where like all your sprains, bone breaks, things like that are in there. So it's a really big chapter. T. Start on 1371. So it kind of just very suddenly starts, which is another good reason to tab it by letter and not by chapter. They're not U codes, and we'll get into why later, but V starts on 1465. So you're skipping U, you're going to V. Almost there, I promise. W starts on 1506. X starts on 1519. Y starts on 1525. Again, a lot of people do W, X, and Y all together. You don't have to, you can. There are not very many codes in the letters, but I like to do it anyway because I'm particular. All right. So the last one you're going to tab is Z codes, and these are often referred to as Z codes. We'll get into why these are a little bit different from your regular codes, but I would mark it as Z codes, and I like to put it up at the top. This is something you're going to use a lot more than some of the other just regular letter codes. So that is it for tabbing. Isn't that great? Another thing I was going to point out is at the end, there is still space to write notes, and there's a couple of blank pages. I had these all filled up for my national exam, and I would bet you will too. So that is how you tab it. And it'll look like this. And for module 2, I believe they are going to have a assignment where you need to, it's like the photo assignment is what it's called. So you will take a picture. You could use your computer, or you can use your cell phone and just like send it to yourself and then upload it, whatever you want. But you will need a picture of your book tabbed just like this. You want to have it on the side so I can see everything, or if you have all your tabs on the top, we'll see them there, just so I can make sure that you have actually tabbed it. I'm not going to check and say, oh, they didn't put a tab for symbols or something like that. I just want to see that you've tabbed it a way that works for you. And there should be a lot of tabs. You shouldn't have like 3 tabs. That's not going to work. But the specifics of which indexes, which type of tabs, those kinds of things you want to do, that's up to you. So I'm not going to count you off, but you'll need to have a picture that shows the tabs and then a picture of you with your tabbed book. So holding it up with your pretty face. So that is what we'll be looking for. So with module 1, something I wanted to point out, the first chapter, they are going over a lot of that background. They're going over a lot of dates and things like that, a lot of who publishes different manuals, and when ICD-10 change happened, things like that. Those are actually questions that will very much be on the national exam. So what I would do is I would go in here and so like I think, all right, so this table of contents page is page 5. So I would say this is page 4, Roman numeral 4 rather. I would go here and I would say page 4, acronyms, dates, and abbreviations. And then here on page 4, I would come in and start writing your notes. So like, what is AMA? What does that stand for? Anything that you see in that chapter 1, that's an abbreviation. That's the name of a specific organization. I know we're going to talk about MACs. What does that stand for? Any of that kind of stuff, I would write it in here. And then you can continue to add to it because we're going to learn more as it goes on. But I'll tell you, on my national exam, they had a question, what is MAC for? And luckily I had it written down, but it's not anywhere in here. That's not something you're just going to know off the top of your head. So I would start with chapter 1, coming in here and writing some notes for yourself. I'd keep it as simple as possible. But I would make sure that if there's an acronym, if there's a date, if there's anything, any law listed, anything like that, HIPAA, anything like that. I think they do ask as well, what is HIPAA? Which if you all took my class last semester, you should know this, but I'd come in here and write yourself a list. So that's what I would do as soon as you get done tabbing this while you're working through those module 1 assignments. Go ahead and do that for yourself. It'll really save you time. You're not, I'm not going to check and make sure you're doing it to my standards or anything like that, but this will really help you in the long run. So every time I make a video about something in one of these manuals, I'll probably talk about some notes that you can put in, what's going to be helpful. But that is something to keep in mind as we go along. All right, so I know this has been a long video and I really appreciate you all sticking with me. Please let me know if you have any questions or concerns, if your ICD-10 doesn't look anything like this. The best place for questions is the discussion board, because then I can answer it all. I can answer everybody's questions in the next video that I make. Which will be like an announcement video. It'll be a little bit less formal. But that's all I have for you right now. And I hope this is helpful. Thanks. You'll have a great day.